Insights on David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet, brought to you by InstaRead. Humans have long ruled the natural world, bending it to their will and desires. But all actions have consequences, and we've only just begun to see the destruction our actions have caused on the planet. In A Life on Our Planet, David Attenborough discusses how we as a species arrived at this crucial juncture in our planet's history, and what we must do in order to return it to balance. The most important step is increasing our planet's biodiversity. With climate change, species going extinct, and an ever-increasing population, we are seeing the signs that Earth is at its tipping point. We must act now and begin to return Earth to its natural state, or potentially lose it forever. Insight number 1. Pripyat is a city in Ukraine that is now abandoned and has fallen to rubble because of the Chernobyl reactor explosion on April 26, 1986. Some have called Chernobyl the worst environmental catastrophe in history, but it is nothing compared to the tragedy that our planet faces today: declining biodiversity. Number 2. There have been 5 mass extinctions thus far in life's 4 billion-year history. Each one has laid waste to nature, leaving just enough life to begin anew. The Holocene is the name of the time period in Earth's history that occurred before humans began altering the environment. During this period, ecosystems and biodiversity flourished. It took humans a few thousand years to begin farming and domesticating animals after the beginning of the Holocene. Our reliance on the environment and what it provided led us to civilizations. Without the natural world, that would not have been possible. Number 3. Rainforests are the most biodiverse places in the world. This is where evolutionary innovation and experimentation constantly work together. Because there are no seasons in the tropics, rainforests have a sense of timelessness to them. The variety of trees are one of the greatest examples of biodiversity, but they are also one of the things humans are destroying at a dangerous rate. If we continue to cut rainforests down, we risk altering the environment to the point of no return, where the whole system ultimately collapses. Number 4. The largest habitat on Earth is the ocean. Life almost certainly began there, probably around vents of hot water on the ocean floor as microbes. As natural selection took place, these microbes evolved and eventually turned into us, humans. In the 1950s, large commercial fleets began venturing into international waters to fish. Back then, there were no regulations, but as time went on, catches were getting smaller and smaller as these large fleets were wiping out fish populations. In 1998, we began learning that coral reefs were losing their color and turning white, a phenomenon we now know as coral bleaching. These coral reefs are essentially underwater rainforests in how they house extremely biodiverse ecosystems. The coral bleaching was being caused by rapidly increasing water temperatures, and when the coral turned white after ejecting its algae, seaweed would begin colonizing the site, then quickly overwhelm it. The coral would turn from oasis into wasteland as a result, and we are to blame. Number 5. In 2011, while Attenborough went to visit the Arctic and the Antarctic for another series, he saw a worrying trend. The polar ice caps were melting. This hurt both ecosystems. With less ice, there were less bacteria growing underneath it for fish to eat. Another worrying sign Attenborough witnessed in the Arctic was the Pacific walruses and polar bears. With less ice, there's less habitable room for these two mammals to live in. Polar bears become weaker with less fish to hunt, and 2/3 of the walruses have gathered onto a single beach. Number 6. Our impact on the planet is truly global. We have continued to litter beaches and waters with plastic. We have increased water temperatures almost every single year, and we have threatened all different types of ecosystems and the species within them. The continuation of deforestation is being pushed by three factors. 1. Beef production. 2. Soy production. And 3. Oil palm plantations. All three factors have negatively affected our planet's biodiversity, soil health, and future. We forget that only a few lifetimes ago, nature ruled prominently over several parts of our planet. But now, we've become used to an impoverished planet, a planet that we now feel and treat as if it is ours and solely ours. Number 7. In the 1950s, America entered what is called the Great Acceleration. From that point on, our increased production has matched the rise of environmental dangers, like temperature, ocean acidification, and species loss. The Great Acceleration is defined by the progress in human development, like greater life expectancy and education. But as we continue to push these progressions further, we risk unbalancing the Earth's 9 planetary boundaries and altering the planet forever. The 9 planetary boundaries are land conversion, freshwater withdrawals, ocean acidification, ozone layer depletion, chemical pollution, climate change, climate pollution, biodiversity loss, and deforestation, the last 4 of which we have already unbalanced. Number 8. By the 2030s, the Amazon rainforest is set to be reduced to 75% of its original size. If this continues, it might begin a process called forest dieback. The forest would be unable to produce enough moisture for its many species and would degrade until it becomes an open savanna. By the 2040s, the permafrost that has long held the soils of the North together is set to melt. If that happens, we risk massive mudslides, floods, and carbon release, as the permafrost is currently a huge storage of carbon dioxide. By the 2050s, if we continue to release carbon into the environment at our current rate, we risk a massive and widespread acidification of the coral reefs and ocean ecosystem. By the 2080s, our current pesticide use will have exhausted soils and made them lifeless, leaving our global food production on land at a crisis point. By the 2100s, the sea levels will have risen immensely, causing some coastal cities to be evacuated. This will usher in what could be one of the largest humanitarian crises we have ever witnessed, as people are forced to migrate in search of non-flooded homes. To reverse these projections of our doomed world, we have to restore stability to our planet by increasing its biodiversity. In other words, we have to rewild the world. Number 9. The path to rewilding our planet is simple, but not easy. We must get back in balance with nature, stop relying on fossil fuels and fertilizers, and halt climate change, if not begin reversing it. Climate change can be halted by using renewable energy sources for all our needs. It can be reversed by capturing and removing carbon through carbon capture and storage technologies. Rewilding the seas helps with 3 things: capture carbon, raise biodiversity, and increase food. A potential method of rewilding the seas is reforesting, particularly with kelp forests. These kelp forests are home to diverse marine populations and are also crucial for capturing carbon. Number 10. Turning wild habitat into farmland is the greatest direct cause of biodiversity loss during humanity's time on Earth, and we've only made it worse as time and technology has progressed. At the heart of our unsustainable demand for farmland is our insatiable and inefficient demand for meat. Every piece of meat that lands on our tables requires a substantial amount of energy, land, and resources for it to get there. Beef is by far the most damaging in terms of its required land usage. Humanity and the planet would benefit from us eating mainly plant-based diets. Scientists and companies have begun working on meat alternatives that would greatly reduce farmland usage in the future. These include alt proteins like soy or tempeh clean meats that are grown from cell cultures, and potentially biotech microorganism created meat. Number 11. The take, make, use, discard model is a relatively new process in human history, but is drastically contributing to the destruction of our world. We need to begin focusing on a circular economy that treats raw materials as resources that need to be recycled. In a circular economy, any material or chemical that can't be recycled would be eventually removed. We could only develop products that would last for years, not discarded after just a few uses, and be broken down to be either remade or recycled. It's easy to become bogged down in what we'll lose in the short term if we commit to achieving a balance with nature. But for the sake of humanity and the planet, we need to, as the losses will be too large if we don't. The only way we can continue this progress is to agree internationally and continue setting restrictions on land usage and the hunting of animals. That is our best bet in restoring the natural world. We must learn from our mistakes, manage our impacts, work together, and turn our futures towards a brighter, greener, and healthier tomorrow. We hope you enjoyed this video. Smash the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Visit instaread.co to get more insights from this and thousands of other books. Use the code YouTube to get a discount on your subscription.